I have such a wonderful guest today. Oh, she's just come in. Heidi Popp. Now, let's see.
Oh, here it comes.
You,
Hello.
you couldn't wait either, nor could I. Hey!
Nice to meet you or see you.
Oh,
Hello.
so nice to meet you. I'm sure, I was reading some of your bio today and I thought, oh, it's kind of absurd the number of touch points there
Oh,
are.
nice.
Mm.
Beautiful. Oh,
But I
that's
guess that's,
wonderful.
you have to be a certain kind of being, don't you, to go in a certain kind of direction. So I was going to put
Exactly.
an introduction. I've got what did I pull? Pulled up your little bio from your YouTube. Well, you have several YouTube channels, don't you? And I like that, but I might just do a little recording of you. But do you know what I want to talk to you about today? Because I think you probably more than most people on the planet, because of what you do, would be amazing at talking about this aspect of child self-directed learning of how do they decide, how do they
Mhm.
have their own personal integrity, this sort of extrasensory intuitive soul perception to know what to do, because so
Mm.
many adults have just lost that.
Yes, true. True. Beautiful.
And I thought,
Absolutely. Yeah, we
that's
can do.
that's almost like
Mhm.
the secret at the heart of, I think, the work you do. From what I perceived, it certainly is from what I do. Would you say that's kind of accurate?
Yes, very much so. I think it's a big step back. We take a step back and let the children, they're coming in with the star knowledge, so we just let them take the lead. And
Yeah.
I think that's what happens is too much adult interference. And we're like, "Wait, this way or you should be this way." And
Do you think, as
we
your
often we don't get.
introduction,
Yeah.
you could
Yeah,
explain how you came to know and embody that? Because I think that would be amazing for people. It would
sure.
introduce you, who you are, but also this beautiful perception that I think we need to encourage.
Sure. Absolutely. Let's do
Yay!
it.
Now, which channel do you want me to say you're from, or shall I just say you're just Heidi Pop? Because you are plenty in yourself, but
I know. I think I do have a link tree. So a link tree website has it's Linktree/Heidi Pop. It kind of has all my channels on it.
yeah.
But I've been trying to grow my YouTube, but I'm on social media. I'm all around there. So I know it's tricky which one to say. But I
Okay,
can
let me
send you
just
my
have a
link
go
tree
at
link.
it, and you can say
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
wrong, and we can, with this is I get the I'll edit this, so don't worry. So I am
Okay.
so happy to see you, Heidi, because I was so excited to meet you. As soon as I saw you, I thought, oh, bells ringing. Heidi,
Ah,
everybody, is somebody who comes from, well, a wide background like most of us do. I think it's in the media and organizational, being able to do a lot of different things at the same time with probably calm and clarity, being able to manage people. And now, as a mama, she is a mummy, and she looks after her own children in a very beautiful way. She also looks after a lot of other children working in education. And the main ethos of this is this self directed or spirit directed, perhaps you might even say, learning for the child, for the children. And she practices this in California. And there are lots of different channels. I will put those listed underneath, and you can have a look at her work because it's beautiful. And she does lots of shows. So there's lots to hear and discover. Do you want to add any more to that, or should we go
um,
straight into that
we'll
question?
go into it, but thank you. Thank you so much for connecting with me and for asking me to be a part of this. It's such an honor and a treat. So thank you and blessings to everyone in the UK.
Oh, yes, lovely. And this, I think this mostly gets heard by people in the States, which is ironic.
Nice.
Sometimes if you have a funny accent, it cuts through things. Like my music used to be popular in the States and nothing at all in England. So,
Oh. Oh my goodness. Well, that's the beauty of social media. It's bringing all of us together from across the pond and everything.
yeah. So I am so happy to have you because I want
Thank you.
to, more than anything, apart from the beauty of having real humans to talk to, which is just something I value every moment that happens, because you can't go in depth with everybody these days, can you? There are quite a
Yeah,
lot
I
of brick
know.
walls that come down. And
Yes.
so this private passion, which is very public now of mine, of children and education, and it's because of probably what I experienced now and previous lives. seeing what happened to my own children, Heidi. This is a funny thing, and I'll bring it in because it might help you to anchor your story for me too. So
Sure.
I was very open with my children, Montessori, Steiner, self-directed, enormously creative, let that spirit come through in whatever expression it needed, have proper dialogue, involve them in everything I did. And my mother accused me of using them as guinea pigs. So that's
Oh, yeah.
the old paradigm of control and the new. And she was suffering herself, like many adults, entity controlled. So of that entity paradigm that we're moving away from, they found it very strange and very difficult, this beautiful freedom I was offering my children. And they were lovely beings. They weren't nasty, mean. They were warm, kind, creative, happy. There was nothing wrong with those children. So that's an interesting paradigm. And what I
Yeah.
wanted to talk to you and give you the floor for was how you have really helped children to do this, to trust their self-direction, this direction from within, and how they manage to hold this kind of sense of discernment and integrity in their choice, and perhaps despite sometimes the environment around them.
I think that the passion behind it is seeing the results. And it's not just with my own children, it's having been able to work with these other children. I can see firsthand the type of spirit that is growing, the light that's getting brighter. And you can't deny it and you can't walk away from it anymore. So after a while, all the naysayers, and I'm surrounded by a lot of them. I am in the Los Angeles area. We do have a very large homeschool community. However, if we follow a lot of Rudolf Steiner teachings as well. And maybe perhaps my immediate family, like my mother, she directed me towards it when I was confused what to do with my children. So I'll talk about my mom in a moment, but the family that continues and my husband's line and the cousins that are here in town, they're all very like, oh, this hippie thing, the cultish. The thing is a cultish. Meanwhile, they're fully subscribed into the old system. And I mean, there's a time and a place for me to share my input because they're constantly triggered. And so I'm just finding their programming to be so very thick and it's generation old that I really realize I'm not going to be able to tell anybody anything anymore. The children and I are just going to have to show them. And so I'm really able to focus on the children because that's what they need. They need the guardians right now, the mentors and the guardians.
Mm.
So I've even changed my title from being a teacher or even educator to a guardian and a mentor because they're showing me what they need. And it's such an individualized style of teaching that it makes me stand up a little bit more into my truths because I am getting pulled in different directions based on their needs, but I also feel confident because I see the direct results. I see how things are transpiring for them. And I'm excited. I'm now excited about our future. I do not fall on the doomsday timeline anymore because I'm working, right? And it's not like I really was, but there was a big chunk of time there that I was very much warning people and, make good choices. Be careful, you're going the wrong way or they're coming to get us kind of thing. I'm like, putting the fear mentality is not being of service and it's also making me feel a little sick. So I had to start being a solution and be a way shower and directing my energy towards the kids was easy choice because in March 2020 I did walk away from motion picture. I was involved in that industry for over 30 years and I found Rudolf Steiner and the Waldorf community because there's my dog. One moment. Thank you, Huck. Dog walk time. He got stuck.
Applause.
I don't know if you can hear him. Oh,
It's
here
like
he is.
saying, "Yay, she found him!"
Confirmation. Um, my mom, she didn't put us through that type of education, though. We were very much involved in the public school system. However, I mean, I'm 50 this year, and it was a different time. The 80s, 90s were a little bit of a different time. We don't have that gadget stimulation. We don't have these agendas that are put into play, I should say. I might be going on too many tangents. Let
No,
me
no, no,
anchor
it's
it
good.
in.
You're opening the field. I love this. This is
Okay.
because to me, I'm whenever I'm talking about how we learn, most the traditional paradigm is that linear thing, isn't it? 1 + 2 = 3. And that goes through the classroom learning. It goes through the structure of the curriculum. Everything is linear, linear, linear. And that is very compressive, and it stops the natural flow of spirit. And I know that this spiral emotion is how we kind of beings, with this spiritual throughput, we
Yes.
work in spirals, because that's how energy naturally works. It's in
Yes.
spirals. So you set
Yes.
the scene, you set the field, you show the seeds, you show the elements, and then you can focus in on
Yes.
something. So
Thank you.
absolutely approve.
Yes. That's wonderful. Exactly.
So
I
imagine,
mean,
I want to
yeah.
ask you then on that note then. So because people who are used to saying, well, how are you going to control the children? If they're allowed to express a desire and a wish of something they want to discover and unfold and unpack, how are you going to keep them? You've got more than one in a room. They're not in a row. What are you doing? So, how do you?
Do you know what I think when you ask that, as well as what I have been finding myself telling people, because people will ask, they'll be so confused. And I say, you don't need to control when they have a sense of empowerment. When they are confident and they are empowered by not just the new knowledge that they're learning, but they've been given tasks that they can complete, individualized, in fact. But if they become empowered, there's a confidence about them that takes no control. They're eager to learn. They look at you for information, and it's not like they fall in line, but they want to play. They're like, okay, what else you got? And they're there. They're attentive. They're ready. They're having fun. That the fun was taken out of the education, and education should be fun. It's exciting to learn something new. And when you do it fully immersive, like when you even said in a row, sure, we're like up in a circle. We're doing math skills while marching and doing like hand movements and gestures and puzzles, and they're so engulfed in what we're doing because it's interactive, and it's a game. It's enjoyment, that there is no need to, like, hey, pay attention, memorize this, eyes on me. I should say, I do say 1 2 eyes on 1 2 3 eyes on me once in a while, because they get really excited. But that's also when you bring in some modalities such as sound and frequency, and I have tone, like chakra tones I'll use, and it kind of brings their vibration back to one where they can soak in information. Like, there's tools that you use in the classroom, um, not to necessarily make them fall in line, but to get them excited again, to bring them back to one, because they get so out of body. And, it's fun to see that. And at a place that I work, it's beautiful because we get to go outside. We have learning classrooms outside, inside. A good educator or mentor checks out the energy of the whole class. It's an entity in and of itself. You have the individual children, but energy is contagious. So if one starts to go and the others start going, you're like, all right, let's take it outside, and then you start marching and, not marching in a row, but like having fun and reciting multiplication tables. And you just have to ebb and flow with it. And I think the fact that these children feel that they can safely expand not only their voice but their actions, that they very much are attentive, because they want they children, it's just developmentally that way. They seek guidance, and that's where the family unit comes around. That's why we see this agenda of the separation of the family dynamic, because they want the children a little bit scattered, so they seek this internal guidance towards a state run school system. Whereas they really, if they have that educator that kind of moves and flows with them, sends them home happy and full of life and new information, the child goes to their parents. Guess what I learned? And how can I help you at home, mom? Because they feel like this out breath happened, and it happened safely. So now they can assist at home. Like
So normally
it's
that
yeah.
happens, doesn't it, in the younger years
Yeah.
of school? It's
Yes.
still allowed to, if you're maybe if you're lucky, up to the age of 8, usually up to 7, it's all allowed to be fun. And then something weird happens with our traditional school system, that the
Right.
rows come in, the silence, the concentration, the no questioning. Somehow you're just surely out of order if you dare to raise your hand before being asked to. All these bizarre other rules, and you think, what's going on in the minds of these poor beings? It's like, well, yesterday it was
Right.
like this, and today it's like this. What's happening? And then you go into the senior schools, and it's grey and monochrome, and it's just terrifying. Oh, and they all wear
Yeah.
black uniforms over here too. The state
Oh.
schools, not all of the schools,
Oh.
but most of the state schools wear black uniforms, suits. It's um,
Oh.
and I was just
Oh.
thinking about what you were saying with, when you've got this kind of getting a little bit wild in a space, and so let's go outside because there's more energy than can fit the room. And I first started doing this drama club in a big theatre with so I had two age groups. I had 4-year-olds, the youngest, which is pretty young for a
Oh.
drama club, 4 to 5, and then I had 5 to 6. And both groups were very excited because they were allowed to choose their own characters, and then we would create a play. But if I noticed if it was all going a bit dark, because maybe they'd had difficulties in the day and they were releasing their emotions, releasing that sense of control and burden from others and getting back to themselves, but it was getting a bit dark, then all I needed to do was to say, hey, let's just stop for a moment. And I'd have a signal, and then I would talk to them as adults, like you and I talk. And they'd know, all right, that's the game, and this is now the conversation. And we'd have a conversation about it. And I'd
Beautiful.
say, I can see what's happening. I don't really like that feeling. Is there anything we can do to make that better? Can we take it in a different direction? What do you think? Ideas. And then these little people then would jump back in the game because they get it, right?
Yes. Yes. Oh, I love that you said that because actually this year, actually after I'm taping with you, I go to a community park and we're having our first gathering of our whole community because we don't start sessions for another 3 weeks. But we ended the very beginning of June, so it's the first time I'm going to see my kids again and the parents, and we all, have a picnic and we can. It's a meet and greet, and I'm so excited to share with them because I was given an extra hour. We added a day to our schedule. It used to be 3 days a week, and now we're four. And they've given me one extra hour that I got to kind of assign myself. And I chose drama. I
Yeah.
said, these children need this expression. And we do in our mornings do qigong and do some movement and some expression and um, um, channel writing and things, but I want them to like act some things out. And that was my old world. So I'm reuniting it and they're giving me credence to do that. So I'm going to share with the families that the children have a chance to do that because even 4 and up, these children are creator beings and they have so many fun. They want to try new skins. They want to
Do
try
you know
new
what I found,
characters.
Heidi,
Yeah.
which is kind of sometimes a little distressing to watch, but my job as a kind of non-judgmental witness is to facilitate what's coming through. And I would see, I've had quite a lot of children, small people, 3, 4, 5, put themselves in cages.
Oh.
And every time they had an opportunity to be anything in the universe, they would be a little servant in a cage.
Oh,
And
literally. Oh,
yeah, yeah.
oh my
So what we were
goodness.
doing was going to past lives and purifying them through this
Yes.
play. And of
Yeah.
course, you had the interesting facility of every child in the group wanting something for that person who was hidden and captured. And so they had a kind of palette of all these different possibilities of how they could get out their new
Wow.
existence. So it's very
Oh.
interesting.
And it's beautiful. And you brought up something important too. I notice in a classroom such as this, there's a lot of teamwork. The kids look out for each other because they're excited to be in a space like that too. I don't know if some of my children have been schooled by their parents saying, "You don't want the alternative and this is what it's like." So they have this idea of what this other school is. Other children don't. And so I see there's a lot of hand holding. There's a lot of like picking each other up and it's so beautiful to see. And if like being in the cages, I'm just picturing that if we were involved in something like that, we do have an area that's like a sacred council. We sit on little tree stumps and we talk it out. There's a lot of conversation. I think that's missing in the old system too. Like I want to hear what they have to say. And that that's how you develop the critical thinking. Like, tell me your thoughts. My daughter's in the same program going into 8th grade, so she's finishing there, and their whole 8th grade is about they're developing their final project. That's all them. They find a mentor. She wants to see them journal every day their thoughts about this project they're doing it and they're really just looking at their thought process. Like,
Mm.
are you really just taking the layers off of your own knowledge and sharing it with us? What have you learned through these 8 years? And it's like there's no wrong answer. We just want to hear, like, how deep can you go? Drama is a great way to do that, to see how deep these children go. I see situations get played out. Like last year, I saw situations get played out like at the home base, things that I was already intuitively picking up on, but I can see, okay, there's a struggle with the parents, or, there's a divorce, and you see, give us a safe space for the child to play it out and act it out. And then you can insert these positive perspectives for it and opportunity to show these outcomes. And they have this sense of relief about them, kind of like, oh, okay, I got that out. I didn't feel like I talked to my family about that, but I got that out.
Yeah, so
This
the
yeah.
traditional way of when a child comes home with their drawing and in the drawing the parents are yelling at each other or something, and traditionally that would be interpreted as a real negative. And say, oh, my child is doing something terrible and saying these things about the family. We're not in a good place. We're not stable. But instead, of course, it's an opportunity that the child is understood that there's tension going on. They're expressing it. And so if we were in a world where we could hold that child and say, wow, this is an amazing drawing. Can you tell me the story? What's going on? And then allow their wisdom and perception to be forming and coming through, finding words for the first time to describe
Yes.
these kind of emotions. I mean,
Yes.
that's the work that the adults go to, when they're our age, don't they? They go to these endless seminars to try and work out, where's my inner child gone? What happened? Why
I
did I
know.
shut myself down? But we never have to let that happen in the first place. And
I
that's what
know.
I love. I know that's what you're doing with the world you're
Yeah.
doing. Are you calling your approach anything specific? Because I'm
I ha-
throwing these seeds out into the world all the time
I
to get people thinking.
I know. I actually have not been. I did line for a while with like a New Earth education system. Like, but in reality where we are, it's not like just a group of star seeds or children who are activated and know it and their families know all these terms. It's a little bit of everybody. So I'm just keep championing like the new way of doing things. Championing New Earth is a neat way to say it, because we are formulating our New Earth timeline, but there's not a lot of families involved in our community that really understand that concept. They just see something's working and
Yeah.
they're just frustrated in an old system. They don't know what to do, and they see the results in their children and they're like, keep doing what you're doing. Like, I don't know. They don't, they're going through their own personal journey and work. They don't know how to unpack it all, but their children are thriving. So they're kind of like, keep going, you know?
It's
So
so
I'm like,
perfect because
yeah,
it's the showing by the doing. It's the proof
do,
that's in the
yes,
pudding.
yes,
It is the
yes.
pudding. And we've had, as you know, we've been, you and I and adults like us, we've been unpacking the lies. And it's like, what? You read another
Yeah.
book, what? We think we've gone through all the layers and there's like, no, another one. I can't believe it. I just unpacked a whole lot about Roswell, which is like, oh my goodness.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Anyway, yeah, so,
Yeah.
we're in that state. But so language and description has so manipulated us, because
Yeah.
it's been this sort of this thing chiseled in stone forever after amen, and we are now understanding the movement and the flow of knowledge and this spontaneity. And as we shift through dimensions, literally as the frequency shifts, in fact, the information shifts too. So there isn't anything that is necessarily a fact, because on a different vibrational spectrum, it's slightly different. And that's mind blowing for most people, but you
Yes.
just show them the pudding, don't you? Happy children,
Yes. Happy children,
intelligent
and plus
children.
there's this sense of I don't know, I feel a lot of love knowing that these children are their lights are being polished and brightened, and they're activating when they go home, their frequency goes home and it does some healing. So it's like the parents even don't know, maybe they don't know where it's coming from, or they don't know how it's happening, but they are seeing the results. They are doing some healing themselves, because they have to be a better version of themselves to maintain what's coming home to them. So there's, a lot of healing, a lot of old wounds probably coming up, but also they're starting to second guess their journey of educate. It is changing generations, and
And
that's
that's
why I have
the
so much
inside
hope.
out,
Yeah,
isn't it? That's
yeah,
this. I
yeah.
always talk about this 180-degree turn, that it used to be the other way, wasn't it? It was the parents conditioning the children because that's
Right.
what they were taught. Let's just repeat the pattern. And if it's not this life that comes in, it's like, hello, I'm your child. And
Uh,
I just I'm a grandmama for the second time, and
yeah.
my granddaughter's 3, and she's amazing. She's just bright and brilliant. And then her little brother is, this tiny little 3-month-old child. And when he talks to me through the screen, FaceTime, he's in Germany, I'm in England, his entire essence is speaking. There's the
Oh,
whole body, the face, every little sound he can make. And you just think, how could you not see this, adults? Look at this. Look at
I
this
know.
intelligence, this wisdom,
I
this
know.
massive energy coming through in communication.
Oh, that's so sweet. It is so sweet. We do have quite a few new babies from last year. And you see these children, like in my class, became big brothers and big sisters for the first time. And it wound up being a little mini lesson block, because we're like, we can't ignore the elephant in the room here. Like, this is neat to talk about. And you saw their whole being shifted when this baby came into their life. It's quite beautiful, and it gets unrecognized in a regular school system. When going back to when you said the conformity, I'm not sure if you had heard, but even here in Los Angeles, they're trying to get the children into the seats in TK and kindergarten. It started, sitting at the desk writing, remember, and I'm like, whoa, it's frightening. But what they're not sharing on social media and the news is how many parents are going, this doesn't feel right. And by the droves, they're starting to leave these old systems, but that's not shared enough. So I think it's something internal that a parent's like, something doesn't feel right. And thank goodness that the parents are waking up to that themselves. But they're
That's
getting younger and younger and younger. And it's like, oh, because they're losing the seats of the big kids. They're all going to different avenues or homeschool enrichment centers like ours, or they're stepping out and they're like, oh, we got to get more kids in, let's go younger. And so it's quite criminal.
wow.
Yeah,
It just
yeah.
makes me think of, I lived in East Germany shortly after the wall came down. And so
Mm.
it was fascinating because I was a new mama, had my little 1.5-year-old, set up a children's group, self-directed learning based on Rebecca and Mauricio Wild. Did you ever come across their work?
Oh no, I haven't.
Education for
I had to
Being.
write that
Education for Being. It changed my life. My parents actually knew them, but not really as people. They were just in a group that knew each other.
down.
Education
Hmm.
for Being is her primary book. Rebecca wrote the books. Mauricio used to give
Beautiful.
talks every
Oh,
year. And they had this
mm-hmm.
school in Quito in Ecuador. And it was self-directed learning in the prepared environment. And it just blew my mind open. I was so excited. Anyway, so they're in old East Germany. I was coming in with these ideas, and I had people who had their parents had been so suppressed under that socialist regime, and the grayness of everything and the conformity, and all the houses look the same, there's no colors. So coming out of that Wüst, which was a great word for wasteland, basically, it's kind of what's going on now in our other beautiful
Yes.
world. We never even conceived it could happen. The crazy over here, lots of crazy over in California. And
Mhm.
it's wonderful in terms of flipping. It does flip. It's like finding the decision. I must leave. It's not just I want to kind of leave the school system, take my child. No, I have to. Now it's
Mhm.
a have to. It's this, like you said, there's this timeline and there's this timeline, and you're definitely on the new Earth timeline. And more people are finding that they are so distressed with what's happening that they are flipping over. That's that
Yes.
white hat effect, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, very much so. Happening more than not. And some feel they have to leave California for that. And I completely understand. Um, and then there's me. I just feel like it needs more light than than not right now. So I just feel like it's not time to leave. Plus, it's such gorgeous terrain. I want to protect it. So, I'll have some of my teachings will go towards the ancient lands, what we're actually standing on, what it was like centuries before, lifetimes before.
Yeah.
And just so they can feel special and anchored in there. Because it's an honor wherever you go, but you can bring this type of new earth education and this child-led learning anywhere, absolutely anywhere.
And
Yeah.
what you said about California, I was, as you were speaking, I sort of, all these ideas were coming through, and it was, oh, I wonder if she's going to talk about working with, the earth energy, and of course, ta-da, came out of your mouth. Because,
Yes.
because that's the reason, because they're playing so hardball, isn't it? In these amazingly fertile, juicy areas of the earth where she's naturally very expressive, expansive, and full of energy, and inspiration to the human beings upon her. And so that's why they clap down like crazy.
Yes.
So if
Yes.
you are able to be stable and hold the power and feed it and amplify it, then in fact, if you can be stalwart and stick in there, you're going to be transforming waves across that land. I'm getting goosebumps all over. So that's how we shifted, isn't it?
Yes, it's exciting, and the kids are seeing that. Last year, so I loop with the children. I'm with the same children every year. So I grow with them, and it's beautiful. Last year was our practical skills year. So we were outside and working on shelters and gardening and farming and all that stuff and animals, beautiful. But what was neat is we took a very sparse, not dead, but very unhappy part of the campus land, I should say. By that end of the year, bright green flowers, animals thriving. And I'm telling them, you did that. Like your energy did that. And some kids would be like, and the crystals we brought in. I'm like, and the crystals and the frequency. But your energy is, grounded here. We would do that work of pulling the roots up from the ground and the source energy down. And they're just swirling in it. And they were very concerned at the end of the year. And they're like, do we have to go inside to a classroom? And I said, I'm hearing you. I understand that. What's beautiful is we created this space that others can now use and that we can come out and use anytime because it was a blank canvas and we made it a little world out there. I said, but let's let's spoil everybody inside. Let's bring what we just learned and bring it inside and see what that will feel like. And they get all excited. So, like, I'm going to tell them today at our picnic, at the first day of sessions, I'd love each of you to bring a potted house plant. And we're going to just fill the space with plants. And I'm really excited. It's our color of our color wheel's green. So we're just bringing all that green energy in. And,
You're
I'm
just
going to make
teaching
it.
them alchemy, aren't you? Transformation.
Yes.
I feel like
Yes.
I should send you, and I normally have my book, I could just reach over. I've written these children's books called Transmissions from the Planet Zog. And it turned
Oh,
out as I was writing them that Zog is us. It's us, just in the future. And I had these children from Zog who were just so curious about what's going on this planet, how weird it was. And they decided to help some orphans in India, of all places. But there is reasons for everything. I just felt like I should send you a copy for your kids because most of their buildings are these inside-outside buildings. The houses are built from living trees. They put plates of glass in between. It grows over time. They build tree houses all the time. They're completely self-directed, and this immersion and weaving into all aspects of nature is completely what happens all the time. And I just thought I
I
should
love
send you guys a book, or I've got, I think one. I don't have all the hard books anymore. I've got the second book. I can send you a copy, and you can
Oh, that's
you guys,
beautiful. Would
because
love
just
that.
this
Thank you.
inspiration to send around the world to say, yeah, I could have my classroom outside, and actually, if we just added this, this, and this, it would even be weatherproof. So it's like inside, outside. What is it? Upside down, in the earth, above the earth, in the tree.
Oh,
These
it's special.
possibilities and working with
Yeah.
nature, and it
Yeah.
becomes the first nature for them, not second nature, not
Right.
an afterthought.
Yes.
It's, I
Yes.
am part of this beautiful, and that's what's got so hijacked too, hasn't it? All
Yes.
this,
That was a huge bit. And I saw the shift in them even from the beginning when I took over the class of just I mean, a lot of the children come from these homes that they've been unschooled or, wild and free. They understand that about nature and gardening and growing, but they haven't been in a space for 9 months and seen the transformation under their own feet. That the ground is growing when it was just dirt for a while. They're stepping into this frequency themselves and shifting it themselves. It's really neat to watch that happen on their face. like, oh, I
Part of
did
I
do
was
that.
commissioned 2 years ago now by this group in Australia, um, and they wanted me to create an online conscious learning program. So I designed the whole thing that it could then be expanded and so on. But they got so excited about AI, and I just
Oh,
moved and dropped the whole thing because I felt like it was going to be corroded and corrupted. But I created this curriculum. Why am I bringing this in? Because the thing of nature, exploring and transforming nature should be the most natural thing we do, of course.
yes.
And yet
Yes.
it's not. It's just so
I know.
overwhelmingly bizarre how we don't do
I
all our
know.
chemistry experiments outside. Go and dig up different
Right?
minerals and all our biology learning outside. And why don't we grow the chemicals and look for the minerals on the site? Why don't we use what we are in? It's so bizarre, the separation. And
Yes.
because I've really looked at it with PhD research and all kinds of stuff, it's just so strange for me to see, the way people are blanked,
Oh, yes.
no awareness, and this bridging thing. So back to my question to you of
Yeah.
how do you let them structure what they're going to learn? How does that happen? Building a curriculum. How do you
I
go
know.
about that?
I know it's so tricky because I did spend some time with my mentor and the Learning Center creator, and we built a structure of the year, like kind of not like they have to make these milestones or they don't pass, nothing like that. Just developmentally age appropriate little blocks, like what lessons are we coming through? And at this age, we are bringing a lot of the old mythology. We're even bringing in Norse mythology. We're just bringing in all these stories. There's a lot of storytelling. But we are taking that practical skills they've done and we're bringing it into their skill set and a lot of small work. And so I'm doing this blocks in a way that I'm like, this is the flow of the year that I feel would go with the seasons. Everything is seasonal. Like even when we get to the winter, it's a lot of tea and candlelit stories and what have you. But the parents very much know. I go, things will shift at any time because it all depends on their interaction with each other. We'll have some new students this year. It all depends on what's going on in the world and their home life. Are they coming in with a heavier heart? Are they coming in feeling safe and small and cozy? I'll have to redirect as we go. And I think my background with theater helps with that because staying physical and expressive, that's going to help change things. But
I
the
also thought
blocks,
you must
mhm.
in you trained as an actress, by the way. Is that your did you train?
So some of my background with that,
Yeah, and
yes.
and
But
then
then I
all
was
this
also with crew.
organizational stuff. So
Yeah.
that tells me, I have this line on my CV that says something like the ability to remain calm in difficult situations. And I think that's what you probably embody too. And that's what allows you to move in this flowing way, to trust that
Yes.
there is a flow. Back
Yeah.
to you're talking about this flow and the flexibility, but even though you have a structure, how much do you get the children involved then in the modification of the structure? Is it a conscious, I'm asking you, or is it more your reaction to you've come in today and obviously your head's been full of the news, or your auntie's just died, or something like that? How would you say you go? Because I think this is really useful for people to hear who have got that they're
Sure.
almost there, but there's a bit too much doubt weighing on their heart still, whether they could
Yes.
cope.
I think where I had an experience with this, and where I went was when I saw the heavy hearts, and there was a few children, and it was coming from a news source at home, and they're hearing about parts of the world in war and their religions and the religious war, and the children came in with this and their hearts are heavy. So I just thought, let's bring that light back into the heart, and I could see their helplessness. So I said, what can we do? And I'm like, what can we do? We're creator beings, but I know we feel so small on this planet. And we all just had an open conversation about like, what amplifies on our body. We got into the heart space basically, and they understood. And I go, okay. And so I go, well, let's try something. Let's just try this. And we had our hands on our heart. We anchored our feet in the ground, like a very quick, small meditation stance. We closed our eyes, and I said, for 60 seconds. And I did my little sand, the timer. I go, not very much time, but as much as we can, let's concentrate on bringing so much joy. Let's lift those people in that part of the world. Send your love. Like it's an invisible frequency. Just like you're giving them a Wi-Fi connection. Send to them your support, your love, your healing self, give them a smile, send them something that would be a gift from you to them. And so we closed our eyes and we just went into this quiet moment, and I'm peeking and I see these children, like really, some are really like really thinking about it. Others are like warm and smiling, but they're somewhere else. And so I didn't say time's up. I let them think, what is that minute going to be? And I'm waiting there, my hand's still on my heart, and I'm present, and they're slowly popping their eyes open, and they just look at peace. And I go, wow, do you feel that? Do you feel that shift? And then the children that were in conflict, or the children that have the heavy hearts, are like, yeah, I think they felt that. I felt that. My toes are tingling. I felt that. I go, interesting. I bet they did. And I go, and then at that moment, I do remember this. We had a bird fly through our classroom because we were outside. And I go, oh, they're delivering our message too. I go, the animals felt it too. So we carried it through with the lesson plan. And I said, who would like to write a beautiful message for, the planet right now? And so we wrote a beautiful earth message, and someone said, can I go into the garden over there and plant something for them? I go, absolutely. So we took a few moments and breaths to do something for someone else, and they could see, like, I'm doing something. I'm using my hands to put this good positive energy out. And then after that, I don't know what the time frame was, 20 minutes, whatever it was, we moved into a new lesson, and they were back in their bodies basically, but they
This is
felt they did
remote.
something.
This is remote
Mhm.
healing and remote influencing,
Yes,
which is
yes.
actually, we've got these fancy names: remote viewing, remote influencing. This is natural. This is
This is natural.
natural.
Yes.
This
Yes,
is
and they
our
don't write
normal.
yes, they're not putting in their main lesson book, because we make our own lesson books. They're not like, "Today's lesson on remote viewing." Like, they're if we when I do my newsletter home, I'll say, "We experienced what some adults may understand as remote viewing. The children sent their positive energies to the conflict in the world, and I wanna let you know they had a beautiful experience of a shift in the classroom." So if you hear stories about that, that's what we were doing. And parents get it, and other parents are like, that's interesting. I want to look into that. It's spreading the knowledge. Yeah.
Because these tender, beautiful moments of the heart, which are so powerful, as you know.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw, but my eyes are kind of watering because it was so beautiful
Ah,
what you were saying. This is,
yay.
this is what I've been writing and speaking and teaching about for God knows how many years, and you're doing it. It's like,
Ah,
I got this card because I just left my school I've been teaching at for 17 years. And because I was supposed to go to the States to be with my beloved. I'm still not sure when that's going to happen. But
aw,
in one of the cards from one of my dear friends, the deputy head, and he said, it's almost like you're doing therapy. And I thought,
right?
finally
That's what
got
it,
it.
you know?
Yes.
It's nice to be seen and appreciated, and I think that
To
was
see
my
the
really
vision.
stepping. Yes, it's the
Yes.
vision, and I realize in order to be seen, the shift is happening. That it's being recognized as, well, we can't deny this because it's happening. The proof is
This
in the
is
pudding.
this
Yeah.
is the God creator self that, like we were saying, the heart is all this beautiful, soft, the quiet with the eyes shut. That was seen as, oh, nonsense. They're just imagining, it's just nonsense. Be quiet, concentrate on your sons. that was completely torn apart, and yet that's the most powerful thing. So
Yes.
that's the craziness, isn't it, of our eyes shut, and now we're opening
Yeah.
them and realizing that this has true power. It has dimensional shifts for the world. When 10 children think about another country, tingle tingles all down my back right now. You can shift the entire frequency of a country when 10 children think in love, and then those 10 children start to realize that they are creator beings.
Yes. Yes. That's exactly the mission. In fact, if I were to say what is the type of education I do, I'm like having the children remember that they're creator beings. I mean, that's really the simplicity of it all. And we do
Yum.
that through expression. Yes, through expression, through empowerment. Um, an interesting story in the classroom too I want to share. I just feel guided to share is we had a moment where we're in the middle of a lesson and I have the chalkboard and a bunny came up to our class, but it started seizure, like something happened to him and he died in
Wow.
front of us. And
Yeah.
for these 9-year-olds, it was like, what? It was intense. Even that moment, we alchemized and shifted. And I was like, oh, this creature felt our vibration was so safe. We were such a strong group of beings that it knew I'm going to transition out of this life in front of these beautiful children so they can help me cross the rainbow bridge, and it's a safe space because if he was out in the wild and that perhaps an animal would have gotten him, his family wouldn't know where he went. Like it turned into this lesson plan. So when some of the children were crying and other children were like scientifically like what's going on with it, we all were able to get into the heart space of this is a moment we visually saw a transition of an animal, and now what are we going to do about that? And it went into caring for the meat suit that the soul has left. Where can we put it safely? Where can we honor it? Let's send love to the family that lost this bunny. And it was just this moment that united, just like that meditation of sending love to the other part of the world. All these different types of children, because you get the very outspoken, athletic big voice, and then you have the quiet child, something like in a heart space of an assisted transition or sending a meditation of love to a planet. It unifies the children. It brings them back to one themselves as a unit, and that collective energy is transformative to the planet, like you were saying.
And did
So it
you
wasn't
find
even
that
just sending.
after
Mhm.
that, I mean, there's so many possible ripples, aren't there? And I'm sure that many.
Yes,
So, for example, I always speak about this and write about it. If I'm eating, and I do eat meat because my body needs it, my particular body
me
just
too.
needs to have meat. So I was
Me too.
having a conversation with this cow that I was eating a part of today. It was tender and exquisite, and it was this really adorable conversation with this cow who's like chewing the cud as we were chatting, and I was eating it. You know, but if an animal is transitioning in front of a child, my third Zog book, by the way, is called How to Transition. It's all about not being afraid about death and moving over between the paradigms. Anyway,
Wow.
that that can influence the fear and the terror we're being put into ourselves about meat, because a plant has a feeling. You can't just say we can't eat bunnies because they have feelings, because plants
Right.
have feelings too.
Uh,
We just have to
Agreed. Yeah.
understand what life and death is and how to cooperate and communicate with these beings. Um,
Yes.
and I bet you found some ripples, did you? Were there any?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, with the children, absolutely. It started the conversations among them, but getting everyone back into the heart is where my goal was. Like not necessarily seeing, well, yeah, seeing the beauty in it, and bringing it back into a high vibration. But the ripples went from there were conversations of the animal is dead. And then it was, well, what did it die from? And is there poison? Are they poisoning the plants? You know, did we leave too much garbage out? We have to do better cleaning up our space. Like the ripples it went from is what can we do to prevent this? But also, how can we make this how can we respect the animal in that moment? And I didn't hear too much about the food necessarily, but everybody was able to bring up their stories of their pets that have passed or a grandparent that passed. Like the whole story of transitioning was the ripple, I think.
Mm.
And then it was the before and aftermath. But I tried to guide the conversation. well, I let them guide the conversation, but it was really constantly bringing it back into the heart space for it. Not a lot of up here and, well, I heard this and I heard this. I'm like, what does it make? How does it make you feel? And what would you do different? And how do you feel about this? And I think that did that answer your question in a way?
Yeah, it is, and it's, it's creating a whole load more questions. I'm seeing, as you said that,
Yes.
I was seeing as you're talking, their feeling, and you're encouraging the feeling. So I just saw this kind of network, literally like the heart frequency joining, so that the
Yes.
intelligences could be shared. Because the way we're
Yes.
taught is to stick up there in our, it's not really in our brain, but let's just pretend it is. Stick up there in our brain with all these arguments and documents, and this is how it died, and blah, blah, blah. And we lose again the power. So by always you encouraging the emotional quality, of course, you get all that information through into the heart, but it's this shared field, a shared
Yes.
consciousness field
Yes.
that then they're in, and everyone has the ability then to perceive. I just had a friend who, it's weird how spontaneous things happen. She just told me her cat had cancer. And so I said, oh, let me see what I can do. So I had a conversation with this cat, she's in the States, and and the the result was get a crystal, program it. And so I talked to this crystal, and it was a really beautiful experience. It just went kind of mad with excitement to help this cat. And then I said, can you put the crystal, just get a crystal, anyone, and put it in the sunlight, and wish it to be really helpful for your cat. So she put it in the sunlight for a few hours, and then put it in the water, and then the cat was drinking the water programmed by the crystal with all that delicious yum love, so that it was soothing the cancer in the mouth,
Oh,
so that he
I
did
love.
die because it was too far gone, but he had a very quiet, peaceful, really sweet transition. And I
Yes.
still, managed to communicate with him a little bit afterwards. He and the crystal and she, and it was just this grace, this
Yes.
beauty, and the whole. And the crystal was such a wonderful little beanie character too, and to discover that we can do that, we can work on this
Yes.
level. And that was the children's imagination. It was just, oh, it's a silly fairy story. No, it's real.
Yeah, yeah, that's so sweet. That made me think of that moment. It's like we were the safe space. He wasn't scared transitioning. He went to peace, knowing all these children were around giving him love. Like it was, yeah, a big
Funny.
learning moment. But just a case in point of how the day's education journey shifts in a moment, and you have to adapt with it and stay though in that space, not panic. Stay in the heart space.
But you
Mhm.
recognize it's not just, I mean, it's not just your ability to stay calm and loving in a shift, but it's the fact that your awareness was open enough to understand the gift of this animal, another part of creation coming in to the group. That was school for today. I mean,
Yes.
that's not normal so-called program thinking. It's our kind of thinking. But
Yes. Yes.
so, how do you
Yeah.
talk to? I bet you've got some parents who are saying, well, how did you know to do that? What do you say to those sweet adults who are kind of stunned?
I did feel the need to write them right away that night. I wrote them a little newsletter blog about what had happened. And some parents were like, I couldn't have done that. I would have screamed or you didn't call for help but again, they saw their children come home with the story and they heard it from them first. So I didn't get that till I get home last. So they heard it all from their child first. And then when I gave them the play by play scenario and how we handled it, they were like, oh, no wonder they were like, not in joy, but they were okay with it all. Like my child wouldn't be able to sleep tonight, or they'd still be a crying mess, but they felt like they helped. And they're like, thank you for doing that. So I didn't have too much other than like, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Some did say that, and others were like, okay, thank you for handling that in that manner because I would have had a really tough time with my kid when they got home.
Yeah, because
So,
that's the
yeah.
moment you just expanded their entire horizon, didn't you? There was experience they had with their child, and then that gap of time where all sorts of things were going on in their mind and feelings, and then you delivering your witness. And so the person at the end of reading your witness is a completely different person to before the children coming home from school.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yeah,
you're
so
that's a
I
part
like
of
full
this learning
transparency.
experience.
Yes. I love the full transparency, and I love the play-by-plays. I love making sure I say it all, and even when there were conflicts between these girls in our class, and the parents on their own were calling me separately and concerned, and maybe I should pull my child, and I go, what I'm noticing, what I witness is they're doing the 9-year change, which is a big to do. It's a big part in child development when they're finding that they're a part of this world. It's no more fairy tales and things. They're just a part of something. And I said, they're a lot alike and they're mirroring each other and they're challenging each other with skill sets that they're not yet haven't yet learned, or they're kind of at the same pace and they're shocked seeing someone else at the same pace with them. So they're like trying things out on each other. And I say, I have to let you know there's more positive moments than negative that I'm seeing. And honestly, the girls are working it out themselves. Like they'll send a note to one another and then they challenge each other because they feel it's a safe space to challenge each other. They know, well, I'm still going to be friends with you. So the parents were making it more of a situation than the children were. And so my witness was go, I'm hearing all that you're saying and I trust you as a parent what you're going to do what you think is best, but I need you to know what I'm seeing. And I'm like boop 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 boop. I've even snuck pictures of them jump roping. I'm like, they're having a beautiful day. And so she goes, if you didn't send me that picture earlier in the day, the way my child came home upset about this girl and talking about her, I would have thought it was a totally different day. So I'm really looking at this in a new light and I'm approaching it differently now. So thank you for sharing those moments with me. I'm like, absolutely. I go, they're here safely, ruffling their feathers, just like they do at home. They try to push their parents a little bit, like, let me try this new voice out and this new thing because my parents aren't going anywhere, so I can try this on them. They're doing
So
that
what about
with their classmates.
this other
Mhm.
aspect then? Because there you are, and perhaps others like you in this environment, other adults, with this calm, with this sense of being plugged into, let's just call it source for, I don't know what you call, creator, whatever, but being plugged into the greater everything. And so being able to kind of trust being this
Trust.
active thing that's kind of bringing you through every single thing in the day. And that is the most difficult thing for adults, isn't it? To have
Yes.
this trust, because we have
Trust.
everything tearing from us left, right, and center to dislocate us from that natural knowing trust. Um,
Yeah.
and so you're holding it. But I mean, you were talking. I just get these images when you're speaking of the kids kind of battling it out a little bit, and I was almost thinking, do you ever get that sense that your greater self is kind of putting you into situations sometimes, and you're just thinking,
Yeah.
what?
I do sometimes think, I wish I had a teacher like me that would have stepped in once or not stepped in, because I think my work too as an educator at home is getting myself so, ready to be able to tune into a frequency and an energy field, because if you're watching an exchange, you're gonna know when it hits that point that you need to intervene, and often it doesn't get there. You can see the resolve coming, so the hard part is to not step in usually and to let them, they're going to get there. And if you just see it not happening, my moment is I let each child be heard. Take a moment with me, like share your side kind of thing, share your story, and then bring in empathy and say, where are you hearing what they're saying, what's coming out of this
But that's
conflict.
active. It might sound like it's
Mhm.
passive. I'm just being empathetic, but actually, by the fact that you're not interfering, you're holding a thought, aren't you, in your frequency grid? It's saying
Yes.
they will resolve it. So you're
Yes.
actually giving them the pattern to fit into. You're not giving them a specific pattern, just that they will resolve it. You're giving them trust. And that's
Right.
incredibly active. It just looks like you're doing nothing.
You're right. Yeah, definitely. Yes, I've seen, and even in myself and as a child in the classroom, it's like one little outburst and both of you detention and get in the other, and nothing's resolved, nothing's happened. In fact, the divide that's happened with those children get even greater and probably carry on for years. Most often the time, the children just need to work it out. They need to dig deep too and get empowered with their confident voices and speak up for themselves.
So
And
how do
so
you do that? How do you hold that space? Because this is so useful for people. It's like you see that there's three kids, and
sure.
they're at
I
it.
do I personally think a presence is important. So I do put myself in their field, like peripheral, however they know, even with my hands behind my back. So it's a non-threatening and an observatory way. And then sometimes I pay attention to their shoulders. Like who's going in, who's there, whose shoulders are back and who has a clear voice. And then it's I often position myself with that one that's getting smaller, just so they can feel my energy and get a little bigger and get their voice a little stronger. And often enough, it's just my presence alone. And whether they even, I think energetically, not just me, but all my guides too. I'll actually try to call in their guides and their peeps, like, he could use a little bit of support right now, team so and so, step right up. And then you can see their body shift and their voice get clear. It's when I sense them out of body, or I sense, it often too happens if there's a treat that happens in class or sugar or something gets them to where they can't control themselves.
Mm.
And then it's, if we're somewhere that's not conducive to this moment, maybe I'll try to redirect them out into a grassy open space, or if it needs a confined smaller space, and then let's continue this talk. But honestly, I think it's just the presence alone that lets them get to their point and get clear about it. Or it's, take a walk and
Yeah, but
process.
again, the presence alone is
Yeah,
that's it, isn't it? That is
that's
it.
it.
Because we've taught to completely devalue that. You're supposed to do that in, I don't know, on Sundays in church, apparently. What? Rather than all your life. Hello. Otherwise, why be alive? But what was I going to say? There was something. Oh, yeah. The sugar. Okay, I think that's so important because, for example, I had two children in one of these drama classes again, powerful minds. Oh my goodness. And they were just at it with like, no, no, they were absolutely against each other. And then they both turned to me like, you got to sort it out. And I said, well, it's actually your argument. You've got that, you started it. You'll be able to find a way around it. I can help you if you want, but you have to ask me questions. I'm going to watch you, you know. And of course they resolved it because I just gave them back their faith, their power. But the power of presence is the everything behind
Hmm. Hmm.
all of this, and the ability to deal with the toxic sugar coming in the room, and they will go
Yeah.
crazy, and then for them to see, yeah, we were nuts, weren't we, with that sugar? I should get
Yes.
nuts. Then they'll start to treat it, like an experiment, and then they can't be hoodwinked by any drug,
Yes.
food.
That's what I am putting that there. I've called it out when and it's kind of rare on that kind of campus, even with birthday celebrations. Parents will bring in much more natural kind of stuff, but every so often you get the commercial family and brings in the stuff, and you see the shift and you'll see the energy shift. And I'll, have called it out. I go, okay, because I'll enjoy it too. And I'm like, I'm starting to feel this. I think we're going to shift our day a little bit. We're going to go to the back field and we're going to do some organized games. And they're like, okay, good. Yeah. Cause I don't want to sit here. I go, I wonder why. And like, cause I had so much sugar. I'm like, let's go to the back. And then I'll tell the parents, I go, it was a beautiful offering. We really enjoyed that special treat, but it shifted something in us that we were unable to, you know, remain in what I had planned for the day. So we wound up doing a lot of physical activity in the back. So your child should be very tired today, like things like that. But I call it out for what it is, because a lot of times too, there's children that never get it. And their parents are like, oh, if something commercial like that comes in, they can have it. That's fine. And I see the child like on a drug get lost.
Yeah.
And I have to have my hand on the shoulder. How are you feeling? All right. Would you like some water? Your body is reacting to this chemical right now, and it's probably uncomfortable. And they're like, because they get in a panic mode, and you just think down the road like, oh, protect these children. And if they can just become so aware of what's happening to their body with the smallest of things, even when we are doing our cooking projects and there's too much fruit or something, or too much heaviness, we get heavy in our bodies. We have to pay attention to how we react to what we're doing to our bodies. And that alone is a lesson. That's a lesson plan. So guiding them through those rides. And a lot of the times, I tell you, I've pointed that out. A lot of conflict happens after a situation like that.
Yeah.
That's the conflict. Or even simple ill communication, misunderstanding, ill communication. So I'll direct, like, be as clear as possible, like with clarity, specifically share exactly what you're trying, your point, your thought is, but just your
And
thought, not
it's,
the
it's
opinion.
heaven. It's heaven for me listening to you, because of this being literally my life's work. From being a child, seeing how my parents were with my siblings and doing things differently. I got into trouble for interfering, to being a young mama, age 21, with my first child, and growing up, and everything about me doing things for children and this awareness. So it's like, you're just hallelujah back all the time. It's so delicious.
Yay.
And I know that, what you're doing is not only enabling the children to build the bridge of the future, because that's what they're doing, but it's also building the bridge to the old earth. Because
Yes.
when you start to
Yes.
understand, I ate this, I don't know what, packet of gummy bears or whatever. So got the wrong language, can't remember American sweets, Hershey Kisses or whatever. And then I felt weird, and this happened, and this happened, and this happened. So they get this process understanding, maybe you usually need about 3 experiences, don't you, to kind of really get it. And you have to be a certain kind of age to reflect. But so they get this understanding, and it gives them strength and resilience. And that understanding then builds back into the world, because it influences their parents' purchasing choices, their friends' choices. It just spreads out everywhere. And the solution you've already found, which is communication, experiencing, working out
Yes.
how it affected me. So you're building this brand new planet. It's so beautiful to hear.
It's really well, I want to throw in too. I had recently exchanged with someone who's not part of our center. They moved. They fled California and went to Texas, but they came back to visit. But they're almost in a bubble, and there's a fear bubble. And so, like with sugars and chemicals and all these things, there's a big fear put on it. And I noticed the difference of educating the child about it without fear versus that, because this child came across these things and they were like, even though they knew all the fear about it, it was like this, it was a drug itself, the adrenaline, like, well, now I have to try it. Whereas the other children who are educated on it were able to have restraint and there was no fear around it. And I just found that so interesting to me. And I made notes about it even because I was like, wow, like, no, they're bless their family for thinking they're doing this beautiful, right thing. But there is this, you can't have that. They're going to kill you with that versus, how did that make you feel? Was that worth it?
Yeah, because it's
How
one is
else could
being
we feel?
powerful, isn't it? And one is disempowered.
Yeah.
It's like
Yes,
saying
that's
that
it.
sweet is going to be more powerful than you in your entire being. What?
Yeah. Yep.
I
Yep.
had friends like that. They were, he was an acupuncturist and homeopath, brilliant guy. And the mama was a stay-at-home mama, 5 children, no, maybe more, but anyway, at least 5, and no sweets. And when we went on camping trips together, oh my goodness, what those kids smuggled and bought with their pocket money with just tins of disgusting stuff. And they went crazy because of that. So we've got to understand this getting back our power, the sovereign integral beings, not in a kind of grab it back or reach or take a long time on meditation or go through difficult sacrifices. It's just everyday moments of choice, witness, understanding, compassion, reflection, start again.
Yep. Beautiful. That's it. Oh, that's going to be in my lesson plan.
I love this so much. Can we meet another time and talk about something you
Yes.
really want to talk about? I would just adore that, Heidi. I just
I would love it. I love talking about this stuff. So, absolutely. And I appreciate you and thank you for being a presence on the planet and for paving the way. And it makes me feel like even more like, yeah, I can do this on my down days. I'm going to reflect on this because you just saying I'm seeing like all my hard work and there's more generations coming forward with this, doing this as well. That makes me feel good because once in a while you take that peek out there and you're like, I trust everything, but I sometimes you do feel against the wall, and you're like, is this growing? And it's just a fleeting thought, but it's like, no, not only is it growing, it has been here for a while, and we're just bringing it forward even more. So
the
thank you
roots
for
go
all the work
deeper.
you do.
Oh, well,
Yes.
thank you. That's just ridiculous, but lovely. It took that long, but it was worth it. And that's the point, isn't it? It's the little, like, go back to the beautiful moment of thinking of those children in the
Yeah,
war-torn zone, and the little 1 minute almost or more of the silent thought,
yeah,
because you're putting energy and information into the field,
yes,
and
yes,
that is not nothing. So people who say, what can I do, what can I do, you can do by
yeah,
thinking and feeling and holding it.
yep, yep. That
Oh,
amplification of that light is enough. It's enough. And that's to me the shift of the planet. So, and so I went into this field. It was 2020. It was when the world kind of flipped a little bit. I walked away from being worked at crew. I was behind the camera and motion picture while my children were involved in the center on their own. And I walked away going, well, I'm not going to go back to that situation. I'm going to go back to where I had my education degree and, back to the focus back onto the children and how can I help? And then when I went in, I go, oh, this is when all my life experience, my human experience, it's all coming in to mentor and guide. And I think we all could be doing that, as adults for children. It doesn't have to just be in the classroom setting. We could just be doing that with little exchanges on the subway and just have a child feel seen and feel heard and send them something and
what I
protect them
see with
because
you,
they're changing the planet.
you see, that has been traditionally, people thought, oh, it's difficult, it's an effort, how can I? And the thing that people will see, and what I saw instantly the first moment I saw your image was, oh, such a beautiful, joyous being. And I just get this fun and the bubbles and it's like you have got the source energy bubbling through you like the champagne. That's how I see you, how I experience you, and that's how the children will see and experience you, and that's how you run things. And this is what we've got to remember, is not that old paradigm is just a complete brainwash nonsense.
Yes.
When you follow the spirit, your spirit within, you are just in this beautiful, creative, bubbly place.
Yeah.
Creation is fun.
And it spreads. Much like if we focus on the old paradigm and all the things wrong with it, it's going to stay active. We have to shift our perspective into creating and way showing and developing and building and the new, what you do want to see because this is the most powerful thing on the planet, really, I think.
There is still, I have to put a piece in there because there are people, and I come across them here and there, where they're so got to think positive that they again, they've put themselves in that bubble, like the people who won't touch the sweets.
Oh, yes, yes. You
They're
have to
too afraid.
recognize it.
But
Yeah.
if we can go and say, okay, what we've got, what we're moving from is a series of boxes created by a strange authoritarian regime. Let's just get all the boxes, put them in the compost, and let's grow our new plants from that. If we integrate
Yay.
and understand and acknowledge, but say, look, guys, you are no longer powerful in this ethos we're living in now. We see that that's where we've come from, but you are merely fertilizer now.
Yay. I love that. Yes. Yes. Beautifully said. Yay.
Oh, thank you, Heidi. Such a lovely thing. I hope you have a beautiful day. You've got a whole day in front
Thank
of
you.
you. Um,
Yes, I'm sure you'll see on social media. I'll share the fun that happens, but I'm so excited to just I wrote them letters this summer. Just that I was, how's your summer? Little penmanship because we, they're learning cursive and we're learning these things, but I just wrote them a hello and I wrote them in my special envelopes, which I keep with me. So they
oh,
know when they get the mail, it's for me. And so I kept saying, I hope to see you at the picnic and I can't wait to build our new classroom. And it's such a special relationship. So I'm sure you'll see. I'll let you know how it goes today. I'm really excited.
I think someone, maybe I should come along and do some research proper. We'll do some proper research books. Because the thing is that now you're going to love that Rebecca Wild book, by the way, because
Okay, yeah.
everything you do,
Excited.
she talked about. Okay, so everything you said is what she was recommending, and you'll go,
Right.
oh, how nice! I just downloaded it from source. But it's so lovely. Yeah, I mean, this is you're practicing what we want all over the world, like a wonderful tidal wave, and I'm sure it's going to go quite fast, actually.
Yes.
Thank
That's what I
you.
say. Yes, thank
Bless you. Have
you
a beautiful
very much.
day. Thank
You
you.
too. Thank you.
See you soon, I hope.
All right. Absolutely. I'll step out. Bye, sweetheart. I'll talk to
Oh,
you soon.
Yeah. Bye bye.
Bye, hon.